Hi, my name is Ray Adams. I'm a Chartered Financial Planner and the MD of CashCalc. I've been asked to talk to you today about several areas, but the first one they wanted me to look at was, why did I develop CashCalc? Well, actually, that's a very simple answer to that. I was running an IFA firm in South Wales. We had lots of very happy and loyal customers, but I'd come to the conclusion that presenting them with an illustration with lots of numbers on there and various different growth projections and watching their eyes glaze over as I talked through them wasn't the way forward for my advice. So I decided that I wanted to present something to them which had graphical outputs with colored bars and graphs, and if it turned red, that means they ran out of money. So fairly simple, really, that somebody could just look at it and get it. So I looked at what was available in the UK, and there were quite a few cash flow planning tools around, and I looked at an article from New Model Advisor where they'd spoken to them, and I came to the conclusion that less than 3,000 of the 30,000 financial planners in the UK were using anything. And what they were using was either extremely complicated or incredibly simplistic and didn't really give the outputs I wanted. And it was fairly simple. I wanted one of the pretty outputs from the complicated one with the simple inputs of the simplistic one. So I decided to employ a young IT graduate in South Wales to build a tool just for me. And we had a Jobs Growth Wales scheme in South Wales. We had high unemployment, and the Welsh government was supporting employers and said, if you give a young person aged 16 to 24 a job, we'll cover their wages for 6 months. So from my point of view, I thought, great, what have I got to lose? Build a tool for myself. I very rapidly discovered that this tool was really simple to use, and I loved what I was seeing. And about 6 months into it, I decided to give that person a job. So the scheme worked, because I then took the risk and employed that young person, and actually decided that I could make this available to my peers as a tool for everybody to use. And therein, CashCalc was born. And the day we launched it, which was the 28th of May 2014, we had a small article in that newspaper, New Model Advisor. They showed a cheesy picture of me smiling and said that a chartered financial planner had launched a cash flow tool. And we had 222 financial advisors in the UK sign up to use CashCalc that day. And I knew then that there was a demand for simple to use software with powerful outputs. So the second area I've been asked to look at is how cash flow planning can help as part of the advice process. Well, actually, that's another great question, because if you'd asked me that 6 years ago, I clearly knew the answer. But fast forward now several years, and my answer is going to be completely different, because we've evolved. 6 years ago, there were only 10% of the advisors doing cash flow planning. Now there's significantly more, and I think the general consensus is that cash flow planning can help as part of the process. So where I see the assistance of technology now is in 3 parts. So it's onboarding the client to get that hard data in, integrating that data into back office systems to avoid double keying, and then going on to the cash flow planning, which is the graphical outputs which brings to life what the clients actually want to achieve in their future and in their retirement. So looking at the onboarding of the client more closely now, probably the best way for me to explain it is to talk about how we actually onboard clients at the IFA firm niche. So let's say, for example, we take a brand new inbound call, the client who has been referred to us and wants to consolidate 3 pensions. So in the olden days, we'd have actually booked an appointment and we'd have had a discovery meeting or a triage meeting, whatever you want to call it, which would have chatted through the client. What we actually do now is we have a brief conversation on the phone and then explain to the client the benefits of completing their data via a secure link. We've got 2-factor authentication, so we send a secure link by email, and then a separate PIN code goes to their mobile phone, and then the clients go on and give the data ahead of the meeting. And that's the hard facts, how much their house is worth, if they've got a mortgage, roughly what their pensions are worth. So having got that data ahead of the meeting, then when my staff sit with the client, they've already got all the basic hard financial information, and they can spend all their time talking to the client about the things which are important to the client. What they want to achieve in their life or their retirement. What plans and goals do they have? How do they want to help their kids? And it's a much, much more productive meeting because they can focus just on the client and the client's future. Having then got all of this information in, which has been input by the client, we can then push that data into the back office system. So financial advisors, when I talk to them around the country, tell me that they hate double keying. Well, in that scenario, you haven't single keyed because the client's giving you the data ahead of the meeting. You've spent your time talking to the client, and then you've pushed the data into your back office system or into your attitude to risk or whatever software you use. So it massively increases the efficiency of the advisor practice as well. So even though I've just explained the benefits of onboarding the client like this, why do some advisors choose not to do it? Well, my view is that it's probably because they may have tried it in the past, which may have involved either posting out a long printed fact find or emailing out an editable PDF or a spreadsheet. And having spoken to advisors around the country, the typical length could have been anything up to 58 pages long. Well, actually, if I was the client, I wouldn't fill that fact find in either. So what we've done at CashCalc, we've made it a dynamic fact find. And what does that mean? Well, dynamic means that it just responds according to the questions. So we assume the clients are going to say certain yeses and no to all questions. So our fact find is just 12 pages long. So the first section would be personal details and address details. And we assume the client has lived at that address for more than 3 years. But if it transpires they haven't, another page appears and said, please can you give us your previous address? So it dynamically responds depending on what the client says. And that happens through all the meeting. Whereas if you want to just give them a printed fact find, it needs page 2 and page 3 for all the previous addresses. So it can't be dynamic. Now, if you send a 58-page fact find to the client, it's going to frighten them off. If you send a 12-page one, which is just simple questions like your name and address, you're not going to frighten them off. And I think that's why many advisors are frightened to try it, because they think their clients won't do it. But from our experience, they will, because every month between 2,000 and 2,500 households do their full fact find on CashCalc for our users. I'd like to focus in on security now, because I'm completely obsessed by security. We're currently holding over 140 billion pounds of data of the client's pensions, investments and current accounts. That actually doesn't include their house values. And that's actually going up by between 4 and 4.5 billion every month. So we now have a significant responsibility to ensure this is secure. So what are we doing at CashCalc? Well, we have complete end-to-end encryption. We also have encryption at rest. We have AES 256 level of security. And if I'm already making your eyes glaze over now, let me just put that into simple terms. We're aiming to get to online banking level of security. And this is the highest that software companies can get to in the UK. So we are really working hard to ensure this is absolutely and utterly secure, how we store this data. Now then, moving on to how you and your clients access this data, we've had two-factor authentication for several years. I just saw it as essential. And what does two-factor authentication mean? Well, if we send the client an email which has got a secure link on it, but that client has their device stolen or loses it, then potentially somebody can click on the link and get in. Well, obviously that's unacceptable. So two-factor authentication means, as well as clicking on the link, they need to get, in our case, a PIN number sent to their mobile phone. So it comes to a separate device. So then they input that in. So in the example, if the device is lost or stolen, and the thief then thinks, oh great, I've got into the device and I've gone into their emails and I've clicked on this link, they still can't get into any data because they need a PIN number sent to their mobile phone as well, which obviously they've not stolen that as well. So this is the level of security that we've been putting in place to CashCalc for years. And I think it's vital that we continue to evolve this and make it as absolutely as secure as we can. So you now want to push this data into other software providers to save you double keying. So who do we integrate with? Well, as you'd expect, we integrate with the main back office systems such as IntelliFlow, Xplan, Curo Time for Advice, Premium, Enable. So we already integrate with these back offices now, but we're looking to enhance them where we need to, and we're also open to integrate with any other back office system which I've not just mentioned. And what sort of integration are they? Well, actually they're both two-way. So if you've chosen to onboard the client with CashCalc, you can push it to the back office and then just maybe bring back an up-to-date valuation. But actually, if you've chosen to use one of your existing back office providers to onboard the client by using their fact find, you can push the data from the back office to CashCalc just to do the financial planning. So it's a full two-way integration. So where are we now? We've got all the data in, and actually we've not even talked about cash flow planning yet. So as the founder of CashCalc, I was asked to talk about cash flow planning, and up till now we've probably saved between 2 and 4 hours of an advisor's time for every client, and we've not even looked at cash flow planning yet. So this is how I'm trying to think about how we can assist advisors with our suite of tools. So now we've got that data in, we can actually start building a cash flow plan. You've not keyed once because the client has keyed this data in, but it's already now in CashCalc, and you can start producing what we call the current situation. But you could call that your base plan or whatever you want to call it. This is where you're at now. You've told me the goals you want to achieve. This is what you've got. And now you can start fine-tuning the cash flow plan to see if they can now achieve those goals by adding certain things into their plan. Maybe retiring early, or going on a round the world cruise, or giving their kids 50 grand as a deposit on a house. You can now go in and see whether they can afford to do these things, and do they have enough money or do they run out? And this is now the skills of a financial planner. And this is the bit where you can now show the client their life in some pretty colors. And go back to the journey I started nearly 7 years ago, where I didn't want to give them an illustration with lots of numbers. Now you can give them some graphical outputs about them giving Bobby deposit for the house, round the world cruise with, and you put the client's name in there, so it's now really personalized to achieve their goals. So this is the bit now which really brings a smile to the client's faces. So having built the client's current situation and achieving their goals, it's really, really simple. In general, it would take about 20 minutes to build a current situation, but then we have the option of copying identically a forecast. We call it clone a forecast. So it literally just reproduces it, an identical copy, in 20 seconds. And then having done that, you can start going and making some tweaks. And then you can do what if this happened, or what if that happened. And this is an area where you could stress test the portfolio and say, well, look, we assumed with basic assumptions growth rates and inflation rates, but now in the what if section, you could start saying, what if COVID-19 or something similar happens and there was a drop in the markets of 20, 25, 30%. So you can actually do some capacity for loss testing on the client's portfolios. We've also got a Monte Carlo tool where you can run it through 10,000 scenarios. So you could do a linear return, which is effectively inflation plus 1% or 2%, whatever you've set as your linear return against linear inflation. You could do a variable return, either of the portfolios you run or some standard sector data, or you could put it through a Monte Carlo of 10,000 scenarios so that you can really robustly test the client's situation and whether they can afford to achieve their goals. It's all incredibly powerful stuff. Lots of people say CashCalc is a simple tool. CashCalc's a simple to use tool with very, very comprehensive and powerful outputs. As a chartered financial planner, I have a simplistic view of how to use software. I don't need the software to tell me everything because I think I'm the expert in my field. That's why the client has engaged me. So we built CashCalc to be a tool to assist advisors to do their job, not to dictate how they did their job. So for example, if a client has got an £8,500 pension, a state pension, I know that the current allowance before they pay tax, the personal allowance, is £12,500. So I would then just I would set a drawdown from the client's pension of £4,000 at a tax rate of 0. Because we built the ability to set tax rates on withdrawals in 2014 when we built this pension. So for people to say CashCalc doesn't take account of tax is a nonsense because I built it 6 years ago. So I can then just set the drawdown myself and I would be £4,000, tax rate 0. Now if the client needed more income to achieve their goals, I would then set the next £37,500 at 20% tax rate. I don't need a system to tell me how to do that because I'm a financial planner and I just know that off the top of my head. And the way I looked at it is that when I'm presenting to the client live, when it says, blue bar, Bob's state pension income, and then a slightly different color blue which says £4,000 drawdown, tax-free within the personal allowance, and then the next bar above it is drawdown within the basic rate tax. That tells the client quite visually you've taken account of their tax for this situation. And I think that delivers a much more powerful message than having a system work it out for you. But finally, what I'd like to look at now, and I haven't been asked to address this is just me giving my thoughts, which is where do I see the future of financial services and tech within that? Where do I see it going? Well, I guess if you'd asked me in 2007, did I need a smartphone? I would have said, no, I just want my Nokia battery to last longer. But actually, fast forward it now, and I can't do my day-to-day life without a smartphone because we've become so used to this piece of equipment which we didn't even realize we needed. And I look upon software in the tech industry in a similar type of way, really. I'm trying to get my brain to think about the future. So advisors may be asking me, saying, can you add this, can you add that? And it's a bit like, can you make the battery last longer? Whereas I'm saying, is that the future? Or should we be doing even more than that? So what I am aware of is that financial advisors and planners only look after about 6 or 7% of the population anyway. So there's 93% plus that we're not even talking to. I'm surrounded at CashCalc and Niche by nearly 60 staff, and most of them are in their late 20s and early 30s. Now, none of them have got £100,000 in pensions and investments, so therefore couldn't even take financial advice if they wanted to. So they need to be able to self-serve. So to me, we're already looking at the onboarding of clients. Well, actually, I'd like to see clients onboard themselves, and then actually, through a series of next buttons, which are prompts, they build their own cash flow. Then they could make some decisions themselves. For example, they could integrate with their bank account using Open Finance, add a partner, work out state pension to be added, integrate with the pensions dashboard or something similar if it never materializes. And before you know it, they've got a basic cash flow built already. Now, there may be 3 outcomes there, especially if they haven't got enough money to retire at 62, which they'd selected. And that could be put more money into your pension, retire later, or change your investment strategy. Because what they discovered, they're 28 years of age, and they were in a low to medium investment risk profile. And they're going to be there for 30 years. So actually they could make certain decisions themselves, which they don't need a financial advisor yet. But as they get closer to retirement, if they've started to build their cash flow, and at some point they're saying, actually, I now want some advice from an advisor about drawdown strategy and, what's the likelihood of me achieving this goal, they could then take financial advice. And with the integrations we've got in place, that could just pop straight into a financial advisor, pre-populated with all the information they've built up over the years. And that actually might not be that fanciful. That could be here closer than you think. And I call that CashCalc Lite. So not trying to do away with the financial advisor, but actually serve the population who don't need the financial advisor yet, but might later on. But coming back to today, CashCalc last week introduced links. So we launched a portal, and if I'd asked advisors 6 months ago, do you need a portal? No, I need a battery to last longer on my Nokia. I think that would have been the answer, we don't need it. I'd like to think in 2 years' time that nobody will be able to work without their portal because of exchanging information with the client. And we're looking to add 11 bits of functionality to the portal. First one being the fact find, the second one being a link out to an attitude to risk. I don't think I should build the attitude to risk and say it's brilliant. I should just build a link for you to use your attitude to risk that you want to. And we can also build a link out to your secure storage, such as Dropbox or something similar. You can also do a link out to DocuSign or Adobe Sign or something similar. So we launched that last week. But even though you can do that, the next upgrade we're doing to the portal is going to be document exchange and document signing. So you'll have the choice to either use the in-house one at CashCalc or use an external one. And this is not something we're looking to charge more for. This is part of the core package. Remember what I said, CashCalc, I wanted it to be a suite of tools to help advisors do their job, not just a cash flow. This is about me as a financial advisor knowing the pain points of dealing with clients and eliminating those pain points by the use of technology. So another thing we're adding to the portal later on as part of the onboarding process is open finance, which used to be called open banking. Do I think the whole country is ready to suddenly integrate? No, of course not. But if CashCalc are going to be the cutting edge, we need to be ahead of where the country is. So we're building open finance and open banking, so that client will be able to click on the secure link, do the two-factor authentication and put their income and expenditure in if they wish, or they could just say, oh, actually, let me pop it in from my online banking and bring it straight in. So these are some of the things that we're actually looking at and doing now to take away those pain points. So one other thing that people say to me, is CashCalc the best tool or is another tool the best tool? Well, actually, it's whatever's the best tool for the job, really. Now, in lockdown, I decided to build some raised beds in my garden. And when I was planting the flowers, I was using this little trowel to actually dig a small hole and put my flowers in there and put the soil back. But when I built the raised beds, if I'd used that little trowel, it would have taken me hours and hours and hours to get all this topsoil in there. So I used a big shovel to do the heavy work and get it in. Then I used the small trowel to finish it off. So actually, which one was the best tool? Well, they were both the best tool for the job I wanted them to do at the time. And that's what I consider CashCalc to be. It might be absolutely the best tool for you to onboard a client, and it might be absolutely the best tool for you to push that data. But it actually might not be the best tool for one part of the process. But as long as I make a commitment that we're going to integrate with all other back office providers, then actually it shouldn't matter really. You just pick which one you want to use and use the bits that you want to use with CashCalc. And I really, really hope that helps you take away the pain points of doing this great job of being a financial advisor and planner. Good luck with business. Thanks very much for listening, guys.